enjoy you, eh? Yeah. Very good.
Hello everyone and welcome to Jerez, and this is going to be our Coppa Shell AM race 1 of the weekend, and this is where we are for round 3 of Ferrari Challenge 2024 here in Europe, Jerez in Spain. Weather conditions absolutely glorious. We're nearly reaching the halfway point of our season. With Portimao to come, then La Castellet, then it's the Nürburgring, and then Imola, right in the middle of October. So this circuit then is a real test for our drivers, that's for sure. It's quite demanding and quite technical, and it's made even more demanding by the temperatures that we have here in Jerez in Spain. 14 turns, as you can see, and a real, as I say, test for our drivers to get the best out of this more undulating than you think track here. 49 degrees the track temperature, the air temperature 35 degrees, and as you can see there's merely 2 kilometers per hour of wind to try and cool anything, and well, that's an example of just how hot it is down there on track at the moment. Imagine what it's like inside of one of those racing cars, the wonderful Ferrari 296 racing cars that race the Ferrari Challenge. As we look at the 188 car of Josef Schumacher, there's Motohiko Isasaki, who is down there wishing every driver well. Motohiko Isasaki drives in the Coppa Shell category, but still finds time to go down and greet all of his contemporaries in the Coppa Shell AM category, which of course he won last year. The 181 car you can see there lined up on the grid, ready to do battle, is Maurizio Pittori, and every driver battled Royale when it came to our last round at Balaton in Hungary. And one of the drivers that was really in the mix of it was Andreas Koenig. You could just see him sliding around then, and Paolo Scudieri also having some panel rubbing moments during the course of the racing. But Zeus Scrimpias, who incidentally goes from P1 today, was victorious. And yes, there you can see his number 168 car going from P1 as Motohiko Isasaki runs around to offer his best wishes to Zeus Scrimpias, who goes from P1 on our Coppa Shell AM grid. The 168 car, once again in qualifying, did a very good job, not only because he got the pole position, but also because he expended less energy in qualifying than nearly any other driver in terms of only doing the minimum number of laps necessary to give him pole position. So he should have good tyre longevity during the course of the 30-minute race plus 1 lap, because the tyres that the drivers qualify on are the tyres that they race on. So Zoe Skrimpias ahead of Andrea Levy, then it's Eric Chung and Andreas Koenig ahead of Shintaro Akatsu and Jan Sandman, but we'll be bringing you the grid in full in due course. Driving the car number 166 for Autohaus Ulrich is Franz Kevitz, and there he is, coached by one Timo Glock, who's a reasonable racer himself, it has to be said. And there we can see the Autohaus Ulrich driver in graphics then, as the car is ready to go. Alongside me is Nico Spalek. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and it is hot. I mean, there is no question about it. It's hot outside on the track. You already saw it in data, but it's going to be hot inside those cockpits, and the battle between those drivers will match that intensity and temperature for sure.
There is no question about that. You're absolutely right. So, the drivers in final stages of preparation. We're around about 5 minutes away from the start of the race. And as with one of our cameras, we go down the grid here. Various devices being used to try and keep the drivers as cool as possible ahead of the start of the race, because actually when the focus is on the race itself and the drivers are very, very busy in the car, the heat, ironically, becomes less of an issue, because your attention and your focus is on trying to overtake the car ahead, unless of course you're in the lead of the race. But whilst there's still plenty going on down there outside of the car, if you're the driver and you're sat in the car, you're just getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and you just want the race to get underway, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're focusing on the heat, and you try to divert your attention to other stuff and your race preparation. And as you say, once it gets going and once you have stuff going on around you, it almost helps, and it almost gives you the feeling that it's not as hot anymore, if that makes any sense.
It does. It makes a great deal of sense. So Rolly's there to try and keep the unrelenting sun off the drivers ahead of the start of the race. So many cars out there on tracks to this race. Guy Fave car that we can see for Scuderia FMA. Guy in qualifying, putting the car on the fourth row of grid, P8. And it's a new race duration for 2024, 30 minutes plus 1 lap, so we add a further lap to our drivers, or for our drivers I should say, and that's what it's like to be really in control and in charge here. And to the very left of your picture, you could see up there Ilaria, who, if anyone is going to be in control and in charge, Ilaria would be the person to do that. Very much a member of the Corsica INT team who do such a fantastic job. There is no doubt about that. So Zoe Skrimpias from Andrea Levy, then it's Eric Chung and Andreas Koenig. And with our drone then, let's get a high speed, or high-ish speed, look at the grid then as we fly through. This is brilliant. That UFO that sits across the start finish straight here is a real feature of this circuit. So qualifying P3 is the Formula Racing driver who's been around in the challenge for a long time. That's the driver of car number 198, Eric Cheong.
I started racing challenge in 2011, and it was an Italian challenge. First Italian, European, Asia Pacific, and I did one race in North America. So 4 kinds. Traveling with my wife is just like a honeymoon again. Just happened to be a lot of honeymoons. Well, the most important thing is with the help of a coach. Without a coach, you cannot really improve. A lot of area, you won't do it but just by going around the track. You have to have somebody to teach you where to stop, where to go. Seriously, you need someone to teach you. The technology is changing every day, so we are just keep improving the car, and we are the one that is enjoying the result and the technology that Ferrari has. Doing the challenge is like a family. You see them. Actually, I see all the mechanics quite often. It's like feel like we are sitting like a part of a family. Ferrari is Ferrari. Nothing to no substitution.
I have to say it was a privilege to talk to Eric Cheung. He is a fantastic guy and a fantastic driver as well, and he loses none of his passion for racing, and you can see that in his results and in his qualifying as well. Eric Cheung, always a force to be reckoned with, and had a fantastic time in Balaton. He'll be hoping to replicate that success here in Jerez in Spain. The cars will be led away by the Richard Mills safety car in just moments from now. Under the UFO they go. And here's the grid in full. Zoe Skrimpias, pole position alongside Andrea Levy. Row 2 is Eric Cheung, who we've just heard from. Andreas Koenig could be a danger man from P4 on the grid. Shintaro Akatsu could also be dangerous, as too could Jan Sandman. They're on the third row ahead of Henrik Kamstrup and Guy Fabé. They go from P7 and P8. P9 is Talal Sher, P10 is Roland Erdner. And then to the 6th row, where we find Mutlu Tarzev and Paolo Scudieri, P11 and P12. To the 7th row, it's Josef Schumacher and Maurizio Pittori, P13 and 14 for those drivers, with Stephen Earle and Franz Kevitz going from P15 and 16, ahead of Hassan Debussy and Lisa Clark. They're on the 9th row, and then on the 10th row of our grid, it's Alvaro Ramos and Louis Perusquia, going from P19 and P20. So pole position then goes the way of the Ineco Reparto driver, Zoe Skrimpias. For some curious reason, we can't hear Zoe Skrimpias, but I can tell you. Here he is.
As late as possible, so we know what the other guy is doing, and go for a quick lap, 1 or max 2, in order to save the tires, because we know that the race will be difficult with the tire management. So let's hope for the best for the race, and let's enjoy. Thank you. Thank you,
Zoe Skrimpias. He was a master in qualifying, and I need to remind you that Zoe Skrimpias before this weekend before this season, I beg your pardon, had done no racing whatsoever. He has hit the ground running and some, and in qualifying, using his head and the advice of the team by doing the minimum amount of laps necessary to get pole position, which means he's got great tyres for the race, Nico. That's the maturity, if you like, of the team and the driver working so well together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he is performing to a level and to a standard that is belies his racing experience. And even the moment where he was overtaken Mugello, where he was in the lead, got overtaken, he drove with his head. He didn't try to, I have to get that back. You know, this somewhat irrational but understandable urge to, rectify that immediately. He drove calm, collected, took a P2, took P1 the next day. Such maturity, as you say. I mean, breathtaking.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been a wonderful addition to the Ferrari challenge. So the cars grid up side by side formation then. The Richard Mille safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and it will be the responsibility of Andrea Levy and Zoe Skrimpias to control the pace of the rolling start. They've all got to go through their grid boxes. If they're outside their grid boxes, they could come in for a warning or even a penalty, as we have seen. And let's go racing then. Zoe Skrimpias, Eric Cheung looking very lively right at the start of the race. So too is Jan Sandman, as I expected. So they go into turn number 1. You continue climbing uphill. A big loser, I think, at the start was maybe Andreas Koenig, who's dropped down a place or so. Eric Cheung and Josef Schumacher with a daredevil move along the inside. And I have to say, clattering into a couple of cars potentially in so doing. And there you can see the Josef Schumacher car. A couple of cars being displaced then at that particular point. But Zoe Skripjas controlling the start of the race perfectly. He retains that pole position. And I think we might have lost a couple of drivers. Franz Kevitz potentially dropping down the order, the Autohaus Ulrich driver, who may have been part of that move right at the very start of the race. Eric Chung trying to find a way past Andrea Levy. And here you can see that Shintaro Akatsu chasing down Andreas Koenig, who did lose a place right at the start. He's down to P5. Jan Sandman, P4. Then it's Eric Chung, Andrea Levy, and then Zoe Skripjas, who are the 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. So our Coppa Am drivers then in the heat of the late afternoon here in Jerez. Zoe Skripjas leading from Levy, from Chung. Then it is Sandman and Koenig and Akatsu. There is Andreas Koenig into the chicane for the first time of asking. That chicane has shown us some drama during the previous races we've seen this afternoon. We'll have seen more drama during this race, and I have to say, Levy is really keeping it with Zoe Skripjas. Probably carries a little bit too much speed into that final turn. And his rotation around the turn was not the same as Zoe Skripjas as they run uphill now towards turn number 1. And through the right-hander they go. It's Henrik Kamstrup trying to get trajectory there, and Roland Hertner and Josef Schumacher together there, fighting over the P9, P10 position. And also out is going to be Tal El-Sher, looks like. Tal El-Sher coming into the pit lane, I think. So what a great shame. We've lost Maurizio Pittori and also Tal El-Sher. And is that just looking to see Tal El-Sher, the Scuderia Lebanon driver, then having to pull the car into the pit lane. And well, Zoe Skripjas is not disappearing up the road as perhaps he would like to. He's being kept very, very keen by Andrea Levy and Eric Chung, and there is Jan Sandman then, coached by Charlie Hollings himself, a very, very successful racing driver who passes on his wisdom to Jan Sandman. First appearance in the Ferrari Challenge Europe for Jan Sandman this season. Here's a replay of the start then. So as the cars approach the line, we have no indication that race control was dissatisfied with the start. Jan Sandman getting a blistering start and putting himself right alongside Andreas Koenig as they headed in towards turn number 1. Let's see it from this drone shot. Keep an eye on the car on the left-hand side. There you can see threading his way through there, and Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman almost touching as they went up to turn number 1. It was a bold move by Jan Sandman, but he just anticipated the lights going out perfectly, Nico.
Yeah, and then now you can see the very colourful car to the left-hand side, yeah, just diving in over the grass, and that is where Maurizio Pittori and Shahir both were victims of that move. I'm sure race control will have a look at. Actually, we are being advised that it is under investigation. It wasn't into turn 1, it was more into turn 2 actually. And,
yes.
I mean, Josef Schumacher is showing a lot of pace. He has moved up the order, but it's going to be an interesting call for race control.
I mean, we've only seen it from one angle, Nico, and it almost looked to me like Josef had to dive onto the grass to avoid making contact with the car ahead of him.
Absolutely, and that's where race control will have a lot more angles. They will take the time they need to make a judgment. If he was forced into it, he's at fault, and we will wait for the results of that. We are watching the leaders here, and then Zoe Skripjas, Andrea Levy, Eric Chung, Jan Sandman, and Andreas Koenig, and then a larger gap towards this group led by Shintaro Akatsu.
Yes, who's ahead of Henrik Kamstrup, and then it's Guy Favre, who's running P8 ahead of Roland Hertner, and then Josef Schumacher, who's completing the top 10 at the moment. So Zoe Skripjas has got about 4/10 ahead of Andrea Levy, then, who is running P2. And you can see that he's tracking Zoe Skripjas very effectively here. What we have found is that there's a couple of places really that are the obvious ones for overtaking here at the Jerez circuit. And there are others which are perhaps less orthodox, but nonetheless, drivers will try and put their nose wherever they can to get ahead of the car in front of them. We will see, but as I say, there's a couple of obvious places. One of them is going into turn number 1. Car number 188 gets a drive-through penalty for causing a collision.
I guess that is not shocking news. Race control has had a look, has had several looks at that, and have said, yeah, Josef, afraid that was too optimistic.
As you say, they have many different camera angles to be able to look at and make that decision. And as you say, that's the decision that they have made. And so Josef Schumacher in P10 at the moment will have 3 laps from the advice of that drive-through penalty to actually serve the drive-through penalty.
Absolutely. Good news in a bad situation is that both Maurizio Vittoria and Tara Shahir have come out of pit lane again, so they are continuing the race. Obviously with a lap down or almost a lap down, but great to still have them as part of our race, which is led by Zoe Squidness. Just put in the fastest lap, previous runner up on Andrea Levy with the fastest overall first sector. So those two really trading quick sectors.
Yes, and Eric Chung is just a little bit further behind. So Zoe Scrimpias, confirmation in the fastest lap of 1:48.3 comes from the driver of car number 168 then, and this is said car, Zoe Scrimpias, who is P1, being chased by Levy, and then it's Chung, Salmon, Koenig, Shintaro Akatsu, Henrik Kamstrup, Guy Favre, Roland Hertner, and Josef Schumacher, who of course is going to serve a drive-through penalty. And also coming into the pit lane there, that I don't think is the Josef Schumacher car. That Maurizio Vittori, who did get out again, Nico, but they've decided, or Maurizio has decided that whatever very quick attention the car had received from the team, it's inadequate for him to be able to continue in the race. Great shame.
I mean, if you notice that there is something wrong, and you already know that you're way out of the points scoring positions, that it's better to take it back and not risk any further knock-on damage. There is the car of Shintaro Akatsu, as Josef Schumacher has come into the lane, I believe.
The top 5 have really broken away from Shintaro Akatsu. So Roland Hertner, you can see there, chasing Guy Favre at the moment. This is for P8 in the race. And Andreas Koenig, as Andrea Levy has fallen down the order, I can see from the graphics. It's now Zoe Scrimpias, Eric Chung, Jan Sandman, Andreas Koenig, and Andrea Levy is in P5 ahead of Shintaro Akatsu, Henrik Kamstrup. And Andrea Levy continuing to drop down the order, I can see from the graphics. There we can see his car now, and next to overtake the Andrea Levy car is Roland Hertner. So he was challenging for the lead of the race, but now Zoe Scrimpias is going to have Eric Chung right behind him. Well, I say that, the gap between them is 1.5 seconds, so Eric Chung has got some time to make up so that he can get on terms with Zoe Scrimpias.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrea Levy, he was still P2 in the championship race. This development certainly is not going to do his points all any good. And so he is closing in a little bit as reduced the deficit. So the fact that Andrea Levy is no longer ahead of him certainly means he's been released and he's allowed to chase behind Zoe Scrimpias. But chasing is one thing, overtaking potentially is quite another. So 20 minutes and change remaining. Here we have our battle for P3.
And this, all of a sudden, for Andreas Koenig, I'm tempted to say, because of the demise of Andrea Levy, this means that all of a sudden Andreas Koenig has got even more incentive, if you like, because it's a potential podium place that he can go for now, as we see. Regrettably, then, retirement for Andrea Levy, perhaps, but perhaps the team will be able to work on the car and get it back out again for whatever reason, whatever happened. Andrea Levy then is not where he would like to be, which is out there challenging for the lead of the race, which is where he was. So, as I mentioned, Andreas Koenig will have the hurry up now because he'll know that Jan Sandman, who is running in P3 currently, that of course is the final podium place, and he would love to have that. Jan Sandman, of course, would like to take his first podium of the season because, unless my memory has failed me even more than it normally does, I don't think Jan Sandman has had a podium yet this season.
Zoe Scrimpias had a number of them, but he's still not getting away. And actually, Eric Chung, every single sector, he's reeling him in a little bit. And we've all saw the great piece about Eric Chung and how coaching affects him and how he loves to be here, and certainly his coach will be talking to him and giving him advice in terms of try to get on terms, but don't overdrive the car, don't stress too much. Track limits thus far have not been an issue across the board. We only had 2 total.
Both for
Henry Kemstrup, but everybody else with a clean slate with more than 10 minutes done.
It is a pity, as we see Andrea looking there out of the car. His race is done. He holds his hands up. Disappointment. So Skripnias. Well, Nico, you're absolutely right to pick up on the fact that Eric Chung is like Zoe Skripnias on the end of Eric's fishing line, but Eric likes fishing, to my knowledge. He's trying to reel him in here. Zoyce has been under pressure before and has coped with the pressure pretty well. Eric Chung, of course, he's one of, it's ironic, isn't it? You've got almost a rookie driver who is leading P1, and then one of the more experienced Ferrari Challenge drivers, one of the most experienced Ferrari Challenge drivers, is running right behind him as Lisa Clark and Hassan Debussy then running P14 and 13. Hassan Debussy really trying to take the race to Alvaro Ramos for Santagol. Who we can see in the bright red and day-glow yellow colours of this wonderful Ferrari 296 Challenge car. Josef Schumacher, incidentally, Nico, took the drive-through penalty and appears that's not returned from having served a drive-through penalty. He's stationary in the pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got quite a few drivers already, unfortunately. Andrea Levy, Josef Schumacher, Maurizio Pittori. Great pity, but our race continues. 17 minutes 40 seconds remaining, and Hassan Debussy is one of those, like Jan Sedman, who we got to know more closely during the Winter Challenge.
Yes.
That is obviously one of the activities of the Ferrari Challenge, also North America, the UK and Japan, and in the winter we go to the Middle East. There are quite a few drivers who we've met there and who are now showing up in the challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Jan Salmon and Hassan Debussy are absolutely, as you say, 2 of those. Very welcome they are too. That's our race leader, Zoe Skripnias in the green and yellow with Eric Chung chasing him by Henrik Kamstra. He is running at the moment in P11 and diving to the inside of Roland Hurtner, I believe, is one Dr. Stephen Earl in the number 100 car.
Yeah, talking about Henrik Kamstra, he lost quite a few positions, lost about 15 seconds on the final sector, so not sure if that is something that's permanent or he just maybe made a mistake or had an error or an off. So we will watch that as Hassan Debussy and Lisa Clark almost got together into turn 1.
And interesting, Lisa Clark, of course, who does a lot of racing in Ferrari Challenge, whether it's in North America or Europe, was also part of the Middle East tour, I want to say, Nico, when we were there for the Winter Challenge earlier on this year. So Lisa Clark behind her has got Louis Borussia, another driver. And here's the Josef Schumacher car making its way out of the pit lane. However, I'm not sure it's going to go much further, Nico. Now, that's very interesting because he served a drive-through penalty, obviously felt there was something not quite right with the car and parked it. And Zoe Skripnias has got traffic ahead of him now. And well, he is unhindered and great driving there because neither Eric Chung nor Zoe Skripnias were held up by the backmarking car of I think it was Talal. Yes, you're right. But what it has meant is that Eric Chung has got all of a sudden a bit closer to Zoe Skripnias. And that's no fault of Talal, Sheher, who did everything he could to not impede these drivers. But you can't just make your car disappear off the track, Nico.
No, absolutely. And with half race distance, I think we are about to get into an intense battle for the lead of the race. Unless Zoe Skripnias can almost slingshot himself and repel himself from the Eric Chung car up the road and try to stretch his lead, because otherwise Eric Chung is now almost within striking distance.
I agree with you. But we have seen that Zoe Skripnias has been able to cope with pressure pretty well, and here is Lisa Clark and Hassan Debussy then both getting past the car of Alvaro Ramos. So it's a move up the order for those 2 drivers. Hassan Debussy there They're the number 150 car of the Santigol driver Alvaro Ramos. Now, Nico, that surely is a repeat, as we see car 188 drive-through penalty causing a collision. We've already seen that, have we not? Unless got another one, surely. I think that's just a graphics error, because Josef Schumacher had already served his drive-through penalty. Unless that wasn't the drive-through penalty, Nico. I mean, he came into the pits.
Well, he came into the pits, and if he had, it would have been a black flag long ago. So, I mean, there are so many things going on. It may well be another one, and I do believe that the guys in race control will put it out again. I tend to believe there is justification until we get proof to the contrary. So,
but we've not seen the evidence of another contact, have we?
No, not yet.
Meantime, Sois Skrimpias is leading the race by a second over Eric Chung. And Eric Chung has now, I said Andreas Koenig, he would have extra motivation to try and find a way past Jan Sandman. The extra motivation is a podium place. So currently, Andreas Koenig is denying Jan Sandman his first podium of the season. So well done to Andreas Koenig. He's got by Jan Sandman. Sandman will be furious. But Andreas Koenig, well, we saw just how hard he had to fight in Hungary. I spoke to him just a little while ago, actually, and yeah, he's finding it tough here in the heat. As it's Jan Sandman who, he gathered that up nicely, Nico. Lost the back end of the car, and yes, he gathered it up nicely. Very, very astute driving then from Jan Sandman, who held it all together. That's just played nicely into the hands of Andreas Koenig, though. Is he going to be able to get on terms with the likes of Eric Chung and Sois Skrimpias over the 12.5 minutes remaining? It's going to be a big ask, because there's some, 8 seconds to make up?
Roughly. So I want to say, barring a safety car, and I don't want to jinx it, I'd rather think that gap is too big, and there is no take potentially Carlos Scudieri on the inside of Frank Hurtner.
Well, we saw
Roland Hurtner, sorry.
That was the moment where that's a big save there from Jan Sandman. He did well to hold on to that, really he did. This is Dr. Stephen Earle then, who's chasing down Guy Favet. So it's P6 that is up for grabs here, which is with Guy at the moment, and Stephen Earle is chasing him down here in the Kessel car. Car number 100. Stephen Earle, 120 for Guy Favet, driving for Scuderia FMA as they round the final turn. So Skrimpias extending his lead now. Nico is up to 1.3 seconds. Eric Chung also having received a track limits warning. It's the only one warning he's had, and with 11.5 minutes remaining, there you can see that the gap is not quite as close as it was earlier on. So Stephen Earle continuing to mount the pressure on Guy Favet ahead. He, of course, has done a lot of Ferrari Challenge racing, but so too has Stephen Earle, Nico.
Yeah, and he came a little bit more tidy through that turn, and I don't know if it's going to be enough, but if you do that, potentially you have more traction and more momentum going all the way through this turn and then all the way down to the hairpin, but I'm not sure if Stephen Earle has been able to just close enough, but maybe he will go for an inside dive. It's not quite there, or is it?
Oh, well, around has gone Guy, and in fairness, there was no assist there, Nico.
Yeah, no, that was all fair. And probably felt the pressure of Stephen Earle.
I would agree with that.
But there is Henrik Kemstrup car in the background, and Chicago keeps it going, but that means he's dropped in quite a few positions. And
he was just on a dirtier line, wasn't he, through the turn?
Yeah. Not necessarily provoked, but it certainly played a role.
Yes.
He knew that he had to be on very much alert in terms of Steve Earle being very, very close, and possibly that played into the result. Sois Skrimpias, as you say, he has extended the lead a little bit. He's managing it at roughly 1.5 seconds with just under 10 minutes plus a lap to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sois Skrimpias then, we can see center screen right now being chased by Eric Chung. Those two, though, as Mrs. Chung watches on, complete with portable fan to keep her cool, as her husband then is running P2. It's Andreas Koenig who is in P3, then it's Jan Sandman, Shintaro Akatsu, Stephen Earl, Paolo Scudieri, Roland Hurtner, Udlu Tarzev and Guy Favre dropping down to P10 now following his spin just a couple of moments ago. So onto the Rapata Corsa Ram pit wall, and this their driver then who put the car on pole position right at the start of qualifying, did very, very few laps, and that has given him a good position with regards to the tyre longevity. I would suggest he has as we reach the final third of this race. We've got 8.5 minutes plus a lap remaining in this race one for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am here. We are live from the Jerez circuit in Spain in extraordinary temperatures. And there the telemetry from the Zoe Scripias car as he goes from 4th to 5th gear, climbs up to 200 kilometers per hour, make that 209 before he has to brake for the left-hander, which is the final turn. And now getting everything out of this wonderful Ferrari 296 car from 3 to 4, up into 5th gear now, 210, 220, 239 kilometers per hour before he has to brake for turn number 1. Andreas Koenig. Now the car ahead of Andreas Koenig is a back marking car. And so Andreas Koenig will not be hampered or held up by the car of Tal Al-Shaher that's running down on the rest of the pack. But Andreas Koenig then, he has brought the gap down, Nico, to Eric Chung, but not by anything like measurable enough to get on terms, barring any other external influence as you identified, like a safety car or something like that. It would need for Andreas Koenig to be on terms. This is Henrik Kamstrup. Henrik Kamstrup is P11. Ahead of him is Guy Favre. Now Guy turned around and so now finds himself P10, and Henrik Kamstrup is P11 at the moment. So the next pressure to come on Guy Favre will come from the all-blue Henrik Kamstrup car that we can see in this battle here. So Scripias continuing to manage the gap out front between himself and Eric Chung of 1.6 seconds. 7 minutes plus a lap to go in this Coppa Shell Am race 1 of 2 this weekend for our Coppa Shell Am drivers here in the late afternoon heat of Spain, where temperature is stifling. Even in our TV studio, even hotter inside those Ferrari 296 Challenge cars is taking a very different line to Guy Favre. There was Henrik Kamstrup. It's brought him right in contention, right close to him now. Lights being flashed in the hope of just breaking the attention of Guy just for a moment. So Scripias, if the race ended now, the championship would be 64 points for Zoe Scripias, and then Andreas Koenig and Eric Chung both moving up ahead of Andrea Levy on 43 and 42 points apiece in P2 and P3 in the Drivers' Championship. If everything, if the checkered flag came out now, which it won't, because we're in 6 minutes in the last stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrea Levy, that DNF certainly hurts him there, but I mean, Zoe Scripias, he continues to be virtually flawless, which we've said it a number of times, and we will say it a number of times throughout the season, I'm sure. Truly remarkable. Eric Chung, he's brought the gap down a little bit, and he always does it in the first sector, and maybe that's a little bit to do with the different setup, where the first sector is, for the most part, is very, very flowing, whereas the other sectors 2 and sector 3 are a little bit more technical. And if you've got more downforce in your setup, that means you suffer a little bit through sector 1, but sector 2 and sector 3, the track comes more towards you, like kind of that seesawing. Gives me the impression that may be a reason.
Well analysed. Mr. Hayden Spalek alongside me. The reason he's beside me is for those very reasons where he can ascertain and identify why perhaps something is changing in the way that it is. So Scripias P1 with 1.377 seconds to the good over Eric Chung in P2, and then Andreas Koenig, who is P3. So accelerates out of the final turn. We'll cross the timing line and we'll get a live gap. And that live gap is 2.136 seconds. So Zois Grimpias has increased the margin a bit. Here comes Andreas Koenig. Now, Andreas Koenig, we wondered whether he would be able to get on terms with Eric Chung before the end of the race. He's got some 6 seconds to make up. That's going to be tricky. But Andreas Koenig is made of stern stuff and he's very determined, running P3 at the moment. He opened his campaign in 2024 with a fine victory in the Mugello circuit in Coppa with Andreas Koenig. And right now he's hoping for at least a podium finish here. Just under 4 minutes plus a lap to go. It's Grimpias from Chung. The cars we're looking at right now, Guy Favet and Henrik Kamstrup. They are P10 and P11. And they're ahead of Hassan Balusi. In replay here, Henrik Kamstrup trying to have a go, but unfortunately just catching one of the back wheels on the gravel. That slowed him down significantly. And right now, Nico, I don't know whether Zois Grimpias made something of a mistake, because the gap was up to a couple of seconds, and all of a sudden Eric Chung has got a lot closer to Zois Grimpias. Whether he just made an error through one of the turns, or maybe missed a gear, I can't imagine that, but all of a sudden Eric is within a second rather of Zois Grimpias. So perhaps he's found some pace from somewhere, or Zois Grimpias has just not had it all his own way over that last lap. Let's get another live gap as Zois actually increases the margin to 1.2 seconds, which makes me think that maybe Zois just got something wrong on the lap. Maybe we didn't see, because the gap came down significantly, and we've got 2.5 minutes plus a lap remaining. So Eric, though, you can see from the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, the last lap of 148.749 and 149.682, which lends some credibility to what I was thinking in terms of how that evolution has come about. So Zois Grimpias from Eric Chung and Andreas Koenig, they are the 1, 2, 3 in Ferrari Challenge Coppa. So the Nico Ricciardo, of course, around the team, the engineer that Zois Grimpias car haven't done such a good job. And the team have had to work hard on that car, to be fair. You know, he's had 1 or 2 offs, hasn't he? Mostly in free practice or qualifying, rather than the races, but that has meant that the team have had to keep their eye on the car and replace some bits, as now Eric Chung narrows the gap still further and gets within half a second of Zois Grimpias. Now Eric Chung, race winner, of course, in Balaton in Hungary, would like to take a victory here in Spain as well, Nico.
Yeah, it's this lap plus 2 more, as we reckon, and yes, you're right, Zois Grimpias had 1 or 2 moments, but he's been very vocal in giving credit to the team and in getting the car back, not only in race form, but in supreme form. And the Nico Ricciardo, of course, the Ram team have really done that. So 2 more laps remaining, 1.4 seconds is the gap as we start those final 2 laps. Andreas Koenig, you said it, only 3.4 seconds down on Eric Chung, but with 2 laps remaining, I rather think that's going to be too much of a gap. He would have liked to have maybe 3 or 4 more laps, and maybe fewer degrees inside the cockpit combined.
Nonetheless, he will be throwing everything at it.
Of course.
Because no one knows quite what's going to happen. Even with the remainder of this lap, plus 1 more to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to give huge credit to our Shell-Am drivers. We have a total of 4 track limit warnings with only a minute and less than a minute remaining. That is remarkable. In these weather conditions, which are not going to help the tire to keep their grip level to the absolute premium throughout the entirety of the race, and to keep everything under control to this level is truly breathtaking.
Fair play to them. Yes, you're absolutely right. When you consider that in previous races that we've seen this afternoon, the tally for track limits has been, warnings and indeed penalties has been somewhat greater. So here we are then, the top 2, and Chung taking 100th out of Zoe Scripias last time around, but Eric is nothing if not an absolutely fair racer, and Eric Chung will be the first to congratulate Zoe Scripias because Zoe has defended his position, but he's not had to defend it too hard. And all of a sudden, you can now see the Andreas Koenig car as that is Carlos Corrales and Roman Werner. No, it isn't. It is the 166 car of Franz Kevitz. Now Franz can get it pointing back in the right direction again, which he can. Shouldn't impede our final lap of the race. I'm saying that, forgive me, as we see how Franz, just on a dirty part of the track, I was saying Andreas Koenig has got a bit closer, Nico, reinforcing what I was saying about he would throw everything at him towards the end of this race. That's precisely what he has done. But it will all be as naught because he's not going to be able to get on terms with these two on this, the final lap. However, Eric Chung has got the hurry up because he knows it's now or never, Nico, but I think his best opportunity for finding somewhere to overtake has gone.
Yeah. This is the final spot, really, where you traditionally think you can make an overtake. Now, that doesn't mean that Eric Chung is not going to have a go, but knowing him as a racer, he won't do a daredevil move into somewhere where it's impossible. But Zoe Scripias certainly can't afford to make any mistakes, because that would be the thing that Eric Chung would exploit for sure. So it's only a couple, 5-6 more turns.
Well, there is Zoe Scripias, there is Eric Chung. They've got some backmarking cars ahead. They've got the chicane to do, but I really rather feel that even though the gap has come down to just half a second once again as they exit or enter rather the chicane, and then as they exit the chicane, I think, well, it should be Zoe Scripias who gets past the backmarking car through the final turn and will head towards the checkered flag, and it's going to be another victory for Zoe Scripias, who takes the checkered flag ahead of Eric Chung, and then Andreas Koenig getting ever closer right at the end of the race. Credit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Credit to them. Credit to Luis Perusquia, who was the backmarking car and made sure he stayed out of that battle. There is Talal Shah here, also a backmarker, but great to see him at least finish the race after his misfortune in the early stages.
I agree.
Zoe Scripias, Eric Chung, Andreas Koenig, Jan Sandman, Shintaro Ankatsu. Those are our top 5 finishers. I mean, really credit to all our drivers who finished the race, kept their cool, kept it between the white lines.
Yes.
Good and fair racing. Paolo Scudieri, Stephen Earle, Mutlu Taza rounding out the top 8.
Yes, they've had to work so hard on those cars, Nico. Well done to Zoe Scripias, Eric Chung and Andreas Koenig. Those are the drivers that we've seen on the podium. But each and every driver out there deserves a shower of something to try and cool them down after the excesses of that race in this really warm temperature here in Jerez.
For sure. But I also predict that all of them will be quite happy to get out of there. Today, much that they love driving it, I think they will appreciate a breath of fresh air at the end of this one, and maybe a cool drink.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be an order well worth making. So the cars on their cool down lap will head back to the pit lane right now. Indicate, come in. And wow, I still find it really difficult, Nico, to almost believe that the man that won that race, Zoe Scripias, before coming into the Ferrari Challenge, under the tutelage, if you like, of the Inigo Motocross Ram team, had not done any racing. To the point where I actually said to him, you know, I don't believe you. You must have done some racing. He said, honestly, I haven't. And he's had one or two mishaps, but they have come in test or practice sessions where Obviously, it's not quite as critical as in the race, but he's absorbed the information like a sponge. He's taken it on board. He's known where he's made mistakes. He's been able to really maximise what he has done, and fair play to him. Well done to Eric Jung, taking P2, and well done also to Andreas Koenig taking P3. There is Corinne, Eric's wife, to congratulate him, and that's lovely to see. Andreas Koenig will fall out of the car now. He'll be very happy to take a podium. And this is Zois Skrimpias. Germana there, his partner, to offer congratulations. Well, I would suggest it's pretty odd. And there, Andreas Koenig then also celebrating his podium.
Absolutely, and I mean, we've given a lot of credit to the 296. We have to give some credit to the 296 air conditioning, apparently, because they still look very energized given what they've just been through.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right. Fair play to them. So, there the congratulations still being afforded to the top three drivers. And the spirit of camaraderie and friendship among the drivers is wonderful. And there is Eric Jung making congratulations there. That's the spirit of the Ferrari Challenge, Nico.
Now, in a nutshell, both the fair driving during the race as well as the camaraderie beneath the podium, and I'm sure the celebrations on the podium will match that. But here are the results.
Yes, the confirmation of the classification then. Zois Skrimpias wins from Eric Jung and Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman. They are ahead of Shintaro Akatsu, Paolo Scudieri, Stephen Earle and Mutlu Tazev. Takes P8 ahead of Roland Hurtner, Guy Favre, Henrik Kamstrup, Hassan Dabusi, Alvaro Ramos, Lisa Clark, Franz Kevitz, then P15 ahead of Louis Perusquia, Talal Shaher, Andrea Levy, Josef Schumacher and Maurizio Pittori. So as we look at the top three there, you can see the podium just above them. That's where they will be heading. And we will be hearing from Zois Skrimpias momentarily. And we will discover what it is that Zois Skrimpias has found today, which he finds most days when he's racing, to be honest. He's a very successful driver. Let's hear from him now. And race winner then is Zois Skrimpias.
Zois, congratulations. Sorry, we have talked about the temperature of the asphalt that was so hot, but I wanted to recap and resum with you your race and your day. You took the pole position, you win today, and you made the best lap in the race. Wasn't a very simple race for you because you had in the front and back a very competitive opponents, but you managed the race in the perfect way and defended your position and the work with your team.
Yes, it was amazing weekend for me. I started very well. I did the pole, and the race, yes, was super difficult. The guys in the back was pressing a lot. But at the end, I managed to give, I think, some nice expectation to egg drifting. But at the end, I managed to survive and finish first. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done, Zois. Here are the highlights to music. Enjoy them. in terms of the Drivers' Championship, Zoe Skrimpias leading ahead of Andreas Koenig, P2, Eric Chung, P3. Then it's Andrea Levy, who's lost a couple of places. There's Paolo Scudieri, Jan Sandman, Henrik Kamstrup, Mudlu Tazev. They are the top 8 drivers in the Drivers' Championship, ahead of Shintaro Akatsu, Talal Shaher, Guy Fave, Roland Hurtner, Stephen Earle, Hassan Dabusi, Alvaro Ramos, and they're ahead of Louis Peruschia, Joseph Schumacher, Lisa Clark, Maurizio Pittori, Giuseppe Romelli, and Franz Kevitz. Michele Mambelli will be bringing our drivers out onto the podium for their celebrations. Here's Andreas Koenig, P3. Eric Cheong will take P2. And on the top step of the podium for a Nico Rapato Corso Ram, it's Zoe Skrimpias. Plays out. Baseball caps get redonned. Is that such a word? Redonned. Redondonned. That's what I will be after today, I should think. The Ineco team from Rapato Corsa Ram represented on the podium as Yifei, Ferrari factory driver, making the trophy presentation first of all to our P3 driver, Andreas Koenig. Eric Cheong then for Formula Racing receives his P2 trophy. Then on the top step of the podium, and therefore in receipt of the race winners trophy, it is once again going to be Zoe Skrimpias. Well done, Zoe. He's pretty happy with that. And of course the team in receipt of the Coppa Teams trophy as well. All the drivers will get together for the photographs on the top step of the podium. And Yifei also joining in. Well done to all. Thank you for a super race. Nico made the point there were only 4 track limits warnings in the entire race. 2 of them went to Henrik Kamstrup, incidentally. We'll take a look as, I don't know who won the champagne battle. I wasn't quite close enough to, or quick enough, Raleigh, to see. Let's take a look at the top 3 then. Go Motorsport helped racing team, and Andreas Koenig, driver of car number 104, take P3. For Formula Racing, one of the long-standing drivers in Ferrari challenges, Eric Chung, he takes P2. And then new to the Ferrari challenge for 2024, and it feels like he's been here some time. Zoe Skrimpias for Ineco Rapato Corsa Ram, he takes victory. So our Coppa Shell Am race 1 is done. We have race 2 to come tomorrow, along with a whole set of more racing and qualifying as well from Nico and myself. Thank you so much for watching the Ferrari Challenge 2024 live from the Circuit of Spain, which is known as Jerez. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.